Hey everybody, Scott here from Yunnan Sourcing. I'm gonna drink a tea from 2 years ago now. Wow, it's hard to believe it's been 2 years. The 2017 Yunnan Sourcing Mao Shan. This is our Jinggu series wrapper. So this is from Jinggu County in Lancang, where we have sourced a lot of teas. And yeah, great wrapper art by Marichka Turanska, who also has submitted a great design for 2019 as well. So anyways, we'll get to it. Lucy's down here. She's looking for a treat. Come here, Lucy. No. So let's get to it. I'll start brewing it, and I'll talk a little bit about the tea. So Mao Shan basically means like big Smoky Mountain, and it's a village in the south, I believe the southeastern part of Jinggu, not far from Lancang County. So you have the Simao or Pu'er prefecture, and in the farthest south part of Simao you have Lancang County, and then north of that and the western side is Jinggu County. And if you head west from Jinggu County, you end up in Mengku, which is actually in Lancang. But anyways, I'm actually going to drink this since I gave it a good long wash. I don't want to waste that. So Mao Shan, we produced just 50 kilos. What's really interesting about this tea is how remote this area is. The trees are only accessible by motorcycle. So all the processing of this tea was done like on the hillside. So when it came out in 2017, I remember it had a very slight smokiness, and that's they literally put a wok. They make a fire. They gather, downed wood from the area, make a fire, and they actually do the processing of the tea, there. They have very rustic kind of conditions for doing that because of the remoteness of the area. If they pick all the leaves and then they take them out on motorcycle and maybe it rains, and then by the time they get back into town, back to, the local area where they're doing the process, where they could do processing, and they probably do, maybe just not this tea, the leaves would wilt. And that's where you see leaves getting like really red, when you have like a lot of redness in the leaves. This has a little bit, but not much. It's pretty standard Pu'er, biodiversity, as they would say, within limits. So this tea, let's see if it has smokiness. I remember in 2017, it had a little bit of smokiness to it. So you need another cookie, don't you, Lucy? Jeez, she bit me. She didn't mean to, but she did. The things I put up with. It's still too hot. So 2017 was a year where we really, really went full on into, more villages. We have more contacts that we made, and I forget how many total we made with this wrapper with different villages from Jinggu, but it was well over 10. And and we had many other opportunities to make good ones, but we just had to really limit ourselves. So I really like Jinggu teas because they're really well balanced. You get really high quality tea, often from older tea trees or mature tea trees growing naturally that are clean. They test well when we test them for pesticides, and the price is it's not cheap, but it's compared to like Monghai, some of the more famous Monghai areas, Pasha, Nano, Bulang, Mongsong, all those kind of areas. They're much more affordable. And they're a different style though, so you can compare them, but you also can't really compare them. For me, I never feel like the pinnacle of Pu'er drinking is like, oh, lao banjiang or this tea or such and such tea. You know, for me, it's the hallmark of drinking tea is the variety and good tea. You know, good tea is for me is a fairly broad definition, and it's not really region specific. So, you know, I'm not a Monghai chauvinist or a Bulang chauvinist or a Yiwu chauvinist, although I do like those teas. You know, I've had people actually, Chinese people in Kunming and doing business in tea and asking me, oh, you still sell those Lancang teas? Those are never going to age well. And it's just like, and they're all, you know, Yiwu or Monghai, and that's like all they do. And then you meet with people that have been doing Lancang teas and sourcing them and making Lancang teas or Jinggu teas for 10 or 15 years. And they're like, oh, you buy the Yiwu tea, it's so expensive. What a ripoff. You know, so it's all a lot of bias. There's a huge amount of bias in just the tea industry and the tea, you know, connoisseur circles as well. Everybody likes to believe that, you know, the tea that they have is the best tea, and the tea that they deal in is the only tea that's worth dealing in. And, you know, I'm always continuously discovering new good teas, and if they're good and they're priced reasonably in comparison to their quality, then I might offer them. My brand, other brands, loose leaf teas. You know, it's not a contest for which one is the best, in my opinion. It's simply connecting people with teas that I feel are worthwhile. Because I'm with Pu'er, especially, I'm investing my money, you know, in the Pu'er, so I have to believe in it. You know, it's not just a popularity contest either. So. Although it's nice when teas are popular and people enjoy them. Let's go ahead and drink that. The wash really didn't actually come out too strong. So let's see if we get, there's like kind of like a baked bread smell here. Wow. It almost has like a fruity, like oolong character. There's a little hint of smokiness. It's definitely dissipated quite a bit since 2017. I mean, it wasn't strong in 2017, but it was more noticeable. Now it's barely, if at all, noticeable. I got it a little bit more there. There is a little bit of smokiness, but it's very... This tea, fruity, bitter, astringent, savory. And meaty. It's got this real thick meatiness to it. It definitely has a very rustic feel to it. I think that's again due to the processing, but also the remoteness of the area. And you know, when you figure you have trees growing in a forest-like setting, you know, there's no weeds aren't being managed really. Nothing's being fertilized, nothing's being sprayed, you know, it's just, you know, it's kind of semi-wild, other than the fact that, you know, people go in there and pick the leaves. Ooh. That came out, wow, that was like a thick bouquet of astringency and bitterness right there. I don't know whether I brewed it longer or whether it's just still opening itself up. Wowza. Wow. Maybe I'm talking too much. I don't feel like I overbrewed that one. Let's try this next one's here and see where we go with this. Oh, Lucy's very patient, aren't you, Lucy? Can you chew with your mouth closed, please? I'm kidding. Wow. This tea has got a lot of bitterness still. It's very strong tea. It's a very, very strong tea. I'm gonna go ahead and reboil the water here, believe it or not, as if I need to really push this tea. But as a kind of just a matter of practice, I think it's just, once I get through these first 5, it's good to be reboil. And that's the thing, is I haven't had this tea for probably a year. Sometimes I'm just not able to check in with the teas again. When I make the teas, and Xiao and I, we drink the Mao Shan and we decide on it, at that point, that's the point where we're deciding how the tea is going to age and whether or not we want it. And, we might not know exactly how it's going to age, but we're going to know that it's going to age correctly if it's been processed correctly. And I was talking about, having too much redness in the leaf. That can kind of give it like a black tea or oolong character, which this tea had in one steep, but it very quickly went away. And that, I think, just was due to weakness in brewing. But if you have too much red wilted leaf, then you're going to get kind of like a more oolong type character. You also have other teas that are overly processed, like green tea. So you have Mao Cha that comes out as green tea. I've come across that as well, where it tastes kind of like green tea, and it actually tastes kind of nice when it's really young, but it won't age well. It'll age terribly. A little bit of redness in the leaf, too much withering. A little bit too much is not a big deal. It's not optimal, but it's not a big deal. Too much, and it's gonna age like a weird kind of Hongcha aging, which, at that point, it's like, is it really Pu'er? So, and again, this one, looking at the leaf, it doesn't have any real. It's not really red at all. There's a little bit of brownness in the stem, but the leaf is not red. The edges aren't even red. So, again, this tea was, processed correctly and processed in a timely manner, which is, I was talking again about that remoteness and how that can play into things. And there's another video out that will be out probably well before this one's out, the 2018 Baohexiang Yan Yun, which is an intentionally created smoky tea. And we also talk about smokiness in teas in that video, or I talk about smokiness in teas and the 3 reasons why teas can have smoke. This one, I think, got a very slight amount because of the kind of campfire Kilgreen processing that they did on it, where they did it, in the mountain, and probably, literally like over a fire that they just gathered, downed wood. So, steep number 6. Oh, sorry, Lissy. Lissy was relaxing over there, and I whistled, and then she got excited. She thinks whistling means something's happening. Wow, bitter and briny and thick. It's meaty. This is a tea that I feel confident is going to age very well, and is going to age with complexity and character. It really has. It really has plenty of goodness to, fuel to feed the fire, so to speak, of aging. Here you go. Here's a quick. We did also produce a 2018 Mao Shan. It would have been interesting to maybe do a side-by-side, but it's coming. But yeah, I've got to try to keep it kind of my consumption somewhat reasonable, because I'm going to be blending a bunch of ripe teas today. We've got some teas, kind of newer ripe teas that we purchased the end of 2018. So I'm going to be working on those, maybe blending with some older teas, just coming up with some new ripe blends. So that means trial and error, and that means quite a bit of caffeine and whatnot. So 2 Mao Shan would be a little much. And this one's going to win because tea that's 2 years old is always pretty much, if it's a similar tea, it's pretty much always going to taste better than the 1-year-old tea. We did that 2017-2018 impression side by side. And the 2018 impression, I love it and I have full confidence in it. But compared to the 2017, which was a year older, the 2017 definitely was, I preferred it. So wow. This is kind of like the Bulong of Jinggu teas. It's really, really strong and really, and it's thick and savory and bitter. It really does remind me. There's a little bit more stringency than maybe a Bulong tea, but not much. The bitterness is really quite strong in this tea. Actually, no, very strong. For a Jinggu tea, it's very strong, which is so interesting because it's, it's Jinggu tea, and those are just, you figure Jinggu is just a county, and it's probably was based around, they drew a line around, some geographic things, and maybe because they're the people, the E tribe, YI, I think it's the E autonomous county or something like that. But those are just geographic distinctions. Well, not the where this particular tribes lived, but in terms of the tea, just because Jinggu is here and Lancang is here and Monghai is here, once you get and there, all those areas have really distinct teas, and so even within Jinggu you have very distinctive differences. I don't want to draw too many conclusions about north versus south, east versus west in terms of Jinggu, but it does seem, in my experience, that southern Jinggu teas are stronger in terms of bitterness, which is interesting. Once you get down into Lancang and Jingmai, but you've got a different varietals of tea down there, typically Zhongxiao which is like a mixed leaf varietal that's not as bitter, much more subtle, floral, sweet. So and Yunnan province is one of the most climatically varied places in the entire world, with some of the largest diversity of wild mushrooms and flowers. And so, as you can imagine, the soil conditions and the climatic conditions make it such that the tea from Yunnan and the various areas of Yunnan can vary greatly. So it's really a treasure trove of diversity, and the tea is one of the few things that we can actually experience. Obviously flowers and wild mushrooms can be eaten as well. So that's really an incredible thing. And if you go to Yunnan in the summer, I highly recommend. Even in Kunming, you can go and you could go to these mushroom. You'll see out on the street. They have, all the different mushrooms types laid out, and it's hot pot usually. And you go in and they'll make like mushroom hot pot, and it's just insanely good. And then they'll do some other dishes with the mushrooms too. Fry them up, fry them with meat, fry them with tofu, fry them, whatever, chilies, you name it. But tea is also something that we're able to experience this incredible biodiversity as well. And I genuinely hope that people, especially in China and the Chinese, the Yunnan, authorities and government, and I think they realize that what they have there is incredibly unique and special, and I hope that it continues to be preserved. And it's the good thing about Yunnan being much less developed historically, like in the 90s and early 2000s, when the rest of China was just rapidly industrializing, was that Yunnan, being far flung, wasn't an industrial center because it wasn't practical. It wasn't practical to develop the infrastructure. It wasn't practical, to have factories there, even in Kunming, because of, how far away from everything it was. So I think Yunnan in some ways really dodged a bullet there. All right, let's go. So anyways, and you have places like Mao Shan that are literally in the middle of nowhere, and there's no industrialization, and there's no, there's not even really much agriculture going on. Not any kind of large scale agriculture at all. So I think that if the value of the tea, continues to kind of gradually rise and keeps pace with inflation and brings up the prosperity of people there, and they realize that the most prosperous way for them to live is through tea and perhaps other, really special biodiversity products like mushrooms and herbs, wild herbs and things like that, then, people locally here will also have more incentive to keep that and not develop it into something else. There's some kind of short-term, benefit type industry, So anyways. Still really solid. Mouth feels just really strong. Chachi is really strong. It's got me kind of motor mouthing and waxing poetic about things and hoping, Wow. I don't know why. I just want to. Here you go, Lizzie. This really is a powerhouse of a tea. I highly recommend it. Probably not going to go too much longer with the video, but I definitely would check this one out. 2017 Mao Shan. You can get a sample, 400 grams cake. It's an option as well. But if you're looking for a tea to age that's got tons of character and nice, kind of older, mature tree feeling to it, excuse me, this would definitely be one that I would recommend to people. It's hot, but I do tend to sometimes blow on the Nice. Bitterness has faded a little bit, and the viscosity, the body is still very much there, but now it's kind of being replaced more by like a honey sweetness, and a little bit of a floral aspect is more. I think it's always, the floral aspect has always been there, but it's been kind of obscured by some of the stronger aspects of the tea. But yeah, we'll conclude it here. 2017 Yunnan sourcing, Mao Shan, Big Smoky Mountain, slightly smoky tea. Highly recommend this. Highly recommend this tea. It's very good. It's very strong. Thanks for watching. Bye.